Not going right. What up, family? RC family, what's up? 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 Man, hope y'all had a good day, man. I just want to welcome y'all into another episode of the RC Lounge podcast. And it's just like a pop-up surprise. Hey, that's why I always tell y'all to be ready, be locked in. You never know. You never know what EKJ is up to. So, but yeah, I hope everybody had a great, awesome Tuesday. And I just hope the day went well for you and hope you and your families are doing well out there. And but yeah, got a special guest. Special guest tonight on the RC Lounge podcast. Been trying to get this guy here, man. You know, it's hard. Had to buy him plane tickets, and you know, you sometimes you just have to invest. Sometimes you just have to invest in yourself, and you have to go on break down about the plane tickets, the food. He like these specific M&Ms he have to eat. You know, so you know, sometimes you just gotta do what we gotta do. So I went on and did what I had to do, and got this young man up in here, and hey, y'all welcome Jason Ruona to the RC Lounge. Bring him on up in here. Bring him on up in here. J-Ro.
What's going on?
What's up, man? Okay. What's going on? Welcome, man. Welcome. Bro,
How you
what's
doing?
going on with you? Everything going good, man. Again, like I said, always a big thank you to you, man, and thanks for the opportunity that you have given me. You know, just being a part of the team. I just want to thank you publicly and just say I appreciate you, man, and you and gotta y'all keep doing what y'all doing. I see y'all trying to get stuff cranked back up, you know, doing y'all, you know, doing the podcast and getting stuff going back over there again. And man, it's just been great, just learning from y'all, and this kind of derive from what y'all do. And I just, you know, had the concept myself just to have the RC Lounge, which is pretty much more of just, you know, talking one on one with people. And then I got the my little segment I do called the pit stop hour. Is more like where, you know, my RC family can really interact with me and ask questions, and if I have somebody on, they can ask questions. So it's more interactive, active on that side of it. But yeah, man, I appreciate all you do, brother, and I'm just proud of you, man, for, you know, continuing to keeping J Concepts business going, and keeping it going in the right directions, and just sticking to what you believe in and doing stuff right and professional. So I appreciate you, brother.
No, I appreciate you. I mean, obviously, doing what you do with your podcast, your show here, it's everyone wants to start a podcast these days, but keeping it going and doing these week after week is not easy. And obviously, shout out to you for doing as many as you have. I know you've been doing this for quite a while already, and
Yeah.
you've obviously been racing a long time now. And getting out there. I know you were racing over the weekend. We chatted a little bit. I was like, man, I had some time, and I thought about you. I thought about the podcast, and then we were like, all right, we'll do it today. And
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Yeah, man. And yeah, we went down to I went over in Georgia, to Barnesville, Georgia, to the track called the Barn, man. And it's an awesome track. They just getting it going. Not too big. It's been around for a little about, I guess, over about 2 years now. Probably a little bit longer than that. But they getting it going, and it's bro, it's in a prime spot. It's got a go karting track like right there on the same property, and then right next to that is the RC track, and it's kind of down like in the valley, kind of like, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying. So everything is built just right. Nice track. That red clay that you like, we ran 8 scale and 10 scale on there. It's just they just need to just keep it going. Really, just keep going and keep promoting their track and putting it out there. And it's a prime spot. It's a good spot. They can really hold some stuff. If you saw it in person, I think you would, like it, and what I'm saying, like they set up and how they got everything done. So
Yeah,
not
I'd
just
like to
yeah,
see. I'd
hmm
definitely like to see some more photos of it, and it's exciting
hmm
that there's a new place for you to run.
yeah, man. So it's not too far. It's like 2 hours and a half, or, hour drive from me. Kind of like going to you remember when PNB was over in Unadilla, Georgia? That one was like probably right at 3 hour drive over there in Georgia.
Hmm.
So yeah, but it's just a good facility. The driver stand is top notch. It has the announcer booth right there on the stand with with the drivers and stuff. It's all wooden. It has pitting area up under the stand. You know what I'm saying? You can pit up under the stand too, with some pit area right there.
Okay.
Nice wooden drivers. Yeah, drivers pit lane and stuff like that. So yeah, bro, it's good. It's good. Mm-hmm.
Well, good. I mean, that's a nice place that you can go and run now. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see some more photos, a little bit of video of how it looks out there.
Yeah, man. So yeah. So bro, how everything's with you and your family, man, with the hurricanes and stuff like that going on? Everything is cool on your end?
It is now, yeah. And we had really good luck at our house. We never lost power. We didn't really have any major trees around, so we didn't lose any trees or branches or any type of issues there.
Uh-huh.
But at the shop, we did lose power for about 3 or 4 days. So we were without power at
Yeah.
our shop for 3 or 4 days, but we're back up and running now, uh,
Okay.
and it's going well.
Shoot, that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, I'm glad y'all doing okay down there. You said the shop is back up and running. And so has just being in the hurricane season this time of year, have you noticed like the intensity of the hurricanes have, intensified, like just saying compared to over the years, or how things have been going? Have you
I don't
noticed a
know.
difference?
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I think is kind of strange, I guess, is I remember because I've pretty much lived here my entire life, except for I lived in California for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, but the majority of my life, I've lived in the same area, and I don't remember when I was a kid scrambling much at all
Mm-hmm.
um, with hurricanes, and I guess it could be also that today there's so much more media
Yeah.
attention, and you can't avoid it, right? Like you're
Mm-hmm.
either on social media. I mean, it's everywhere, and I got individuals messaging me from all parts of the world
Yeah.
asking me about this hurricane, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, I don't remember really maybe one hurricane when I was a kid. So I feel like we get into this time of the year now, and
Yeah.
there's always two or three potential hurricanes that are going to come through this area, or you know how those directions go, where
Mm-hmm.
it starts off going one way, it could go the other, and obviously um, it was the one before this, Helena,
Yeah.
and then this one, Milton. But
Milton. Yeah. Hmm.
and I think they show those paths of the hurricane, and it's just constant updates. There's so many now. So I
Yeah.
think between the news and the media really being in touch, at arm's reach all the time with the attention, you do feel a little bit like there's more activity than there um, has been. And
Yeah.
I don't really know what the real statistics say. Obviously there's going to be a real statistic for that somewhere. I've never looked it up, um,
Yeah.
but um, I've so far, in my time, I've never
Hmm.
experienced something that was catastrophic in our general area. It's always been the same type of trees down. That's really what the biggest concern is in our area is we don't get the stuff that comes right off the ocean. It has to
Right.
travel through Florida quite a bit,
Hmm.
and then the concern is really something falling. Falling, if it trees or whatever falling into your house or cars, or um, that's really the biggest concerns, I think, when you're in the area I am, because flooding and that type of thing. You do see a little bit of it, but nowhere near like you see in some of these videos and photos from areas on the coast. So we've been pretty fortunate from that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, we keep an eye on them every year, and
Yeah.
it also brings sort of a strange camaraderie, I guess, in Florida in general, where um, uh, you see people kind of getting together and helping each other. They're cleaning each other's yards.
Hmm.
Um, there really is. There is some bonding that happens during this. You meet some of your neighbors. Uh, it's really kind of interesting how it all kind of works. But um,
Yeah.
you do see people kind of bonding together and helping each other lots of times in these neighborhoods. I was visiting some people over the weekend. They had a little more damage than others, and you could see them helping their
Helping each
neighbors.
other,
And
brother.
yeah, so
It's crazy. Hmm.
that's pretty neat to see, because these days, um, you don't see your neighbors and things like I think you did when you were, or when I was younger, because there was no, back then you left the house more,
Yeah.
uh, because there wasn't, things weren't brought to you near as often, and you left the house. If you're a kid, you're playing outside all the time, or in my case, RC cars, or
Hmm.
outside, or whatever. I was outside all the time, riding bikes or playing with cars, and you meet people and neighbors out there all the time. But now you're a little. I feel like it's a little bit. People are tucked into their homes a little more with technology, and you order different things and have them delivered. And I mean,
Right.
no one knows maybe more than you do about um, making deliveries, right?
That's right. You already know.
Made a
Yeah.
bunch, you've made a bunch of
Hmm.
deliveries over the years, but yeah, there's a lot of that today. So yeah, it's interesting how some of these things do bring some people together, and you kind of, when we go back to work, you hear individuals discussing their experience during the hurricane with each other. So other people from work, I
Yeah.
see them talking about their experience, and how they had family members come help them, or so it's kind of cool to see that in that situation.
Yeah. Like I said, it's you right about that, bro. Cause like you said, like just for example, just going back over the years, like 9/11, how how people came together.
Hmm.
Even in some of these tragedies, man. I know our country was kind of divided a little bit with like George Floyd situation, but when it come down to it, just people being treated equally, then we pretty much come together when situations really come to that we have to be accountable and just you know be our brother's keeper and just have each other's back. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, yeah, but that's a good thing. But it just sad sometimes though. Flip side of it when you have to think that something like this have to happen for people to just treat people right. You know what I'm saying? But you're right though. You know what I'm saying? It is
Yeah.
amazing how it kind of bring people together too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it really
a
does.
lot of these things, kind of do at times. And it's, like you said, it's not great to get to a point where it takes something like that for it to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just the nature of today and the technology and watching, whether you're watching movies at the house now or streaming services, or you're ordering um, packages from, through FedEx, UPS,
Right.
Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
you're ordering food delivered. You're just, I think with all the, they make things so easy for everybody now to gain an edge
Mm-hmm.
in sales, and make it, the easy button, that you leave the house less and less. And um, so yeah, you're just not out
Yeah.
as often, I guess, participating with others and neighbors and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely had an effect there over the years. But I guess that's life, and that's technology. And I think in the world there is money always to be made in making things easier for people. And
Yeah.
the easier you make it, the less communication and that you have to have with others. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's a little strange, but um, I think that's what we're dealing with a little bit.
That's- I think so, bro. I think so. But yeah, man, just get back to the RC side of stuff, man. Let me ask you this. I'm gonna take you back now, bro. What was your first job before even like what was your job like before you got into building your own, J concepts and even before like RC? What did you do before you really got into RC? What was Jason
Well,
doing then?
you know, I have had RC cars since probably 1985, and um, but not the. I didn't get into racing until late 1990.
Uh huh.
So I had cars for many years. I played with in the backyard. My neighbor had a car. He would play. My cousin had a vehicle. We would all, drive in the backyard, and we made tracks to play on before I really knew that there was actual racing. I didn't know that there was actual organized RC racing. I was just doing it with my buddies, and in the yard we
Mm-hmm.
made tracks, and I had doubles and triples before I really knew that there was such a thing as a real competitive track that had these obstacles. We just made what we thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finished high school, um, my our family business is, my dad's always been a general contractor.
Okay.
He's retired now because I'm 48 and he's 78, so he's
Mm-hmm.
retired. But um, so I went to the job with him all the time, learning, I guess, construction, general contracting. And
Okay.
I would say that it was never really my job to be in
Mm-hmm.
construction, but I went all the time, especially when I was really young. When I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, I was always at the job, the construction site with my dad, and I loved it. I thought it
Yeah.
was the greatest thing to, go in the truck with them and ride around. And we'd go to the job and check in on things we're going. And and you kind of learn all these little things, not really on purpose, just kind of accidentally, being
Mm-hmm.
there. And so it was never really my job to do that, but I was always on the construction site when I was a kid. And then I played with RC cars and bicycles. Uh, Movies and magazines were really influential in those days. So you'd get
Yeah.
BMX magazines, you'd get RC car magazines, and that's what I
Yeah.
did for
I got
fun.
you.
Then
Mm-hmm.
video games came out, like Nintendo. We
So.
did some of,
Mm-hmm.
did some of that, and then when I finished high school, I had been racing a couple years already, and um, Mike Reedy, who he invited me to come to California and stay with him, and
Okay.
I worked at Associated. Um, in the first half of the day, I worked at Associated,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did whatever they needed at the time, like whether it was package these batteries or cut back in the old motor days, you'd cut brushes. I soldered the welds onto the commutator on
Yeah. On
brushed
electric
motors.
motors. Mm-hmm.
I worked in I worked at Associated, so I'd clock in and clock out, and at 12 o'clock, me and Mark Pavitas would go. Um, we'd go to the track, and Mark was in a different position in his racing and his job there. Um, but we would go drive, and we would go testing, and so for me, it was just a great opportunity to do some work in the morning, and then we would go to the track. I stayed with Mike Reedy. So I would say that was really, when I was going to the job and working with my dad, I didn't really feel like it was like a job so much.
Yeah.
But when I worked at Associated, especially, in the early morning, because, we would get there at like 6 a.m. or something like that. And like, you
Okay.
know,
Early. Mm-hmm.
trying to wake up and, being that young, whatever, 17, 18 years old, and waking up that early to get to the
The
to
job.
work. But when you
Mm-hmm.
were going to, at the time, Team Associated, it was also exciting. So it was a little easier to wake up. But yeah, I would say that was the job I had. I just did kind of whatever was necessary for a half a day, and then we would. Um, so I did that for during the summer, and then we went
Yeah.
to um, when we got done. They were building a new car at the time. The RC10B2 was a new
Mm-hmm.
vehicle that we were running and testing, and we brought it to the Worlds in Japan, and we ran it there for the first time. So, a lot of what we did in the motor department with Reedy, we got motors ready and items ready for
Yeah.
events and to sell distributors and dealers.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I didn't really understand 100% what was going on because I was pretty young and a little green to the business.
Yeah.
Um, but then going to the track and testing this new car and working with their designers and people in the machine shop area on the car stuff was you learned a lot there. So I would say that was kind of my first working experience, I guess,
I got you.
besides construction.
Cool. Cool. Cool, man. So, just from there, man. So how did Jason come up with this idea of J concepts, and how did you go about, developing that from an idea to bringing it to reality?
Well, a couple things, I guess. I guess for me, I was always interested in going back to when I went to Associated.
Right.
Um, Cliff Lett, who was the head of their R&D at the time, he later became the president. But um, when I was watching him work on different things and different projects, he
Mm-hmm.
brought me to a few of the mold making vendors that they had there at the time,
Yeah.
where they were making new molds for the vehicles and stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of got to understand and see what all went in, more of what went into building these vehicles. And that really interested me. And I started to get this understanding that, hey, this is not just about racing and who wins or loses. And there's a business side to RC, and you have to
Yeah.
sell. They're selling a product here,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to sell in order for the rest of this to go around, right? Like,
Okay.
in order for this product, it's just everybody just when you're a racer, I think you just take off and you go racing, and it's not. You just think that everything revolves around this racing, but
Yeah.
really, what it revolves around is, can you sell anything?
Can you sell it? Okay.
In the
Mm-hmm.
business, can the
Mm-hmm.
business sell anything to support the racing?
Yeah. I got you.
So, because obviously racing is fun, everybody wants to do it. Everyone wants to do it for free because there's a cost. But I think in the end, um, these businesses, in order for them to continue to race, there has to be some sales, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the originally sponsored drivers are. They're the original influencers of the world, where the drivers were the outside representatives of the
Mm-hmm.
business,
Yeah.
and they help generate sales. So anyway, I got interested in the design, manufacturing of the vehicles during that time. Um, but I still felt like I had something to give on the racetrack. I didn't know where it was going to lead. I kind of had an idea that I was a good racer or
Right.
a great racer, but
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be the world champion. I certainly was in the top 10 at the worlds several times, but
Right.
I had this understanding, the ability to kind of see that my future, if it was going to be in the business or be an RC, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to be the world champion. And
Yeah.
there was only a couple of those in my generation, whether it was Masami, Mark Pavidis, Brian Kinwald, and Matt Francis were probably the biggest champions during the time that I was racing. And to beat those guys
Right.
um, at my point um, was very difficult, like it is today. It's no different than trying to beat the top, three or four guys in the business today.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that um, in order for me to be around in it, I needed to develop some other skills. I had interest because of the situation with Cliff Lett, where he showed me, what it's like to be in the manufacturing side. I started
Right.
studying. I
Mm-hmm.
started studying, going to school for computer drafting, and
Okay.
became good with some of the programs that you need to design and model RC cars in three-dimensional drawings. So I went to school for that, and
Yeah.
got pretty handy with that type of thing. So combined um, with my experience at Associated, I had
Mm-hmm.
also had experience at Proline, where I was pretty close with Tim Clark from the races and Todd Matson, who was the owner. I was pretty close with those guys because of going to events and races.
Yeah.
I worked there for a little while in 1998, 1999 area. Um, and then I moved back to Florida, and the intention was that I was going to do more racing, but concentrate on some drafting for working with my dad and building houses. That's what we were going
Okay.
to do,
Okay.
because my dad was, obviously a general contractor. I was going to work on designing houses, which I did do.
Yeah.
Worked with him on that, and the Worlds was going to be set to be in Florida in 2003,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I wanted to. For me, all the times when I raced the Worlds, it was special to have new items and new products to show at the Worlds. We still do that today.
Right.
Um, in
We're gonna get into
2000,
some. Yeah,
and so,
we're gonna touch on some of that new stuff in a minute. Go ahead, but go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
in 2003, that was still my focus was I need to come, but I was going to race. I'm like, I want to have a body
Mm-hmm.
um, for the B4. And then a friend of mine, Brad Ralphs, wanted to, longtime racer, he wanted to run the race also. But he said he wanted to build his own 4-wheel drive car for the race. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, the race is like a couple months away.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you really started on anything? And he's like, well, not really, just other than some ideas and concepts. So I'm like, all right, well, let's sit down. I'm already working on this body um, that we're going to use for the B4, or I'm going to race with.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work on this car design. So I was able to utilize, the skills and for, computer modeling. And we put together this car design, and we were able to get it made right before the Worlds. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had the body on the B4,
Yeah.
and then we had the car that we both raced in the 4-wheel drive class. And that was the start. And I didn't really have any intention of selling the body or the car. It looked, we got so many people interested in the body for the B4 and then the car itself that I think that's what kind of, set the whole thing into motion. And it
Mm-hmm.
was customers wanting the body. They said, all right, are you going to make this car? Are you going to make this body? And you're like, wait, we were just going to do this for the race.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, that's how it started. And
Okay.
so it was unique because I had experience as a racer, a top racer, and I had experience as a designer
Right. Right.
to design parts and vehicles and bodies, make bodies. Had experience doing this type of thing, and kind of threw it all out there in 2003, and
Yeah.
it went over pretty well, and it was fun. So um, after the race, it
Mm-hmm.
really kind of took off, and I had to decide which direction to go. I was pretty involved with my dad doing these we were building these houses and
Houses.
designing and drafting of houses. Got involved in that, and so I kind of pulled away from that and concentrated on the RC, and started full time doing RC out of my house. And um, so we did the 4-wheel drive car
Mm-hmm.
plus the bodies. We were doing it all out of my house, and um, it was um, it was a lot of work. It was I'm not going to say it was 24 hours a day, but it was a lot of hours a day, and you're living with it. You're living at the house, living with all these things, and you want to use all that time. So yeah, I thought it was a great experience overall, and it kind of got us going. But it before it was really a thing or considered successful, it was many, many years. Let's see if maybe we lost Corey for a second. We do have a question here. Griffin MPC mentions any bodies coming out for the Techno NB48 2.2. I painted a beautiful S15, but the air filter interferes. Bought the 2.0 air filter. hoping it would help. Yeah, I think the 2.0, the low C 2.0 air filter helps a lot with all those issues. That's what like Mayfield and the guys use, I believe, is the TLR air filter, where they just, it provides a lot more clearance for everything. So yeah, I don't know what happened to Corey. We may have to stop and come back. Maybe his internet went down. Maybe he'll come back. So we got Nuclear Crypto asking a question, Jason. Where in Florida was the world's? It was in Clearwater, which is kind of by St. Petersburg, away from Tampa. That's where the Worlds was, in Florida, and that was in 2003. The track was called Minreg at the time. It's not there now. Got shut down because the driver's stand wasn't built. Actually, no, it got shut down because of the nitro cars. There was a nearby development where they didn't like the nitro cars. We got another question from Griffin again here about we do a good job of picking up young drivers like Jovi Levin. How do you find such great team members? I met Jovi at one of our J Concepts races in Las Vegas, him and his dad. And they came there doing a great, I think one of their first travel races into Las Vegas to do our carpet nationals there. And I think it went really well, the race overall, but that's where I met Jovi and his dad. And you could tell right away, they were very detail oriented. They liked racing. And you could see that they had sort of a fever for RC, and they're asking a lot of questions. They're very, very attentive to me and asking different things. And you could tell right away they were going to make some strides. And I think that they've made a lot of strides to the point where, Jovi's one of the favorite drivers in the 17.5 classes in the US right now. And I was like watching him run truck for some reason. He had a truck the first time I met him. He still races truck today and does a good job with it. Got Griffin asking, what are the top 3 tips for a 1/10 off-road carpet guy going to his first nitro race? Well, be prepared. That would be the number one thing. Don't think you're going to go to the track and get your car running, working properly when you're there. Try to get that car running and working properly before you even show up. It is ready to just drop on the starter box, go right out on the track, and just fine tune, because otherwise it can be a long, long day. Very long day. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to Corey here. I'm still waiting to hear something back from him. Maybe he lost internet or something. So, but it still shows that we're live. So we'll keep chatting if there's questions here. So 3 tips. So we got to have 3 tips. The number 1 is to be prepared. That's the number 1. But number 2 would be keep your expectations kind of neutral. Don't expect too much. And watch other good drivers and mechanics work on their cars and prepare and tune in the pits. Only get advice from people that you trust and you can respect what they're doing out there, because I think everybody wants to give advice because people are helpful, but go with the individuals and drivers who you can see have their equipment functioning and working well, because you want good advice. Everyone's out there to gives advice, but you really what you want is good advice. So I guess those are the tips. RPM Nitro says he lived in Newport Richey, which there was a track we raced at near there. B&B Raceway. We used to race there. We ran Super Cups. We ran Nitro races. So I think what we'll see is, or I'm sorry, that track eventually I think closed, but we ran a lot of races out there. And it was not really Newport Richey. I think the town was right next to it, but essentially you would drive through Newport Richey to be there. So Griffin is asking, what do you think needs to happen to bring more young folks into RC? It feels like those who come seem to stay, but fighting the mind share with the app generation. I think it's an expensive hobby, and I think to get young folks in RC, they have to be very good at. I think the young kids have to be very good at convincing their parents to give it a shot, because getting out and actually running, it costs some money, and I think you have to have supportive parents to do that. So yeah, let me see Corey's message in here. He might start a new one. Hold on, let me talk to Corey. Telling him we're still on live. I have to get him to join. So he might have to restart in order for him to come on. But so I think you have to, the kids have to have the parents sign off on getting them involved. And I think that's the major hurdle. I think this is also it interests young and older adults. It's also something that interests adults, and maybe it interests adults more than it does children. I think people do. He's back. Hey, I'm going. Hey, I'm still going.
I see. I hear you holding it down. I appreciate this. That's why you gotta have a good guest, man. You never know what happened, but they gotta be able to hold it down just in
Yeah.
case somebody out the normal happen. Go ahead.
So
Yeah.
was that just a test? That was just a test, right?
That's all. That's all. Make sure you still got your skills. So when y'all get back going on the RIP, you be good to go. You warmed up now, see?
Yeah, oh, I'm going. So we're talking with Griffin MPC here about keeping getting more young folks involved, but we kind of talked about that a little bit, and we got you got it up there now. Okay. That's what we were going through talking about last, and like I said, RC is a little bit on the expensive side, and you got to get the parents to sign off on doing it, because somebody has to come up with the money, and so that's where I think the parents have to be very interested and sign off on this, that this is a very valuable thing and can be very a big teacher to children, as it was for me, and everything that you learn, or I've learned, has kind of been part of RC. So, or just wanting to do more and be better at things involved with RC or business. So it's all revolved around learning from this. And I think that's what parents have to know, is it's really a good thing to invest in. And so I think understanding that would be big in order to introduce more young racers.
Okay. Just for that, Jason, do you think more tracks ought to offer like just have sessions where they can teach the younger kids like how to drive, instead of just throwing everybody out there at one time.
Well, I think one of the issues is you have to be a certain age in this to
Mm-hmm.
even want to understand that, to want to be good at it. I
Mm-hmm.
think when I see younger racers out there that are too young, they just want to play with the cars, and to them, the competition and the driving part of it is not necessarily all that valuable to them. It's just to them they want to play with it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not until you get a little bit hungrier and a little bit older do the results start, or the your speed or your results or the precision of it become an issue. So I think um, the key is to decide if the racer, do they want to do this and they want to play with the cars and they just
Mm-hmm.
want to, challenge themselves to, do they want to break it? Do they want to just drive into stuff and bash? Or do they really want to seriously consider this as something they want to focus on and do good at? Because I think that not everybody has that same focus. They Some of the kids want to play and
Yeah.
they just want to drive and destroy the cars, and
Yeah.
that's fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to decide which direction they want to go, and
Go.
then if they're interested in being better in learning to learning,
Mm-hmm.
then, like you said, having some experienced individuals, I think, is nice to have. And when you go to a track that has a, like, I was just at Hoosier RC, and I think that they do a good job along with others, but they do a good job if they see that you're interested on pushing you, not pushing you, but getting you into either a class or that works well for the equipment that you have, or helping
Mm-hmm.
you learn how to be better.
Yeah.
And so I think if there is a hobby store or there's individuals with experience at a location like that, um, they can have a lot of influence over drivers continuing to do this, I guess. And when you just have an outdoor track and you don't know if anybody's going to really be out there on a day-to-day basis, that's either works there or helps, or it's hard to hook up with the right person, right?
Yeah. It is. Mm-hmm.
So that's where these tracks that have stores connected to them, I think, are really the best from that
Yeah.
standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there's a lot of helpful people in RC. I've 99% of the people I've met in RC are very, very good, and
Yeah.
they want people to continue. They want people to be good at it, and I mean, somebody helped me the first time I was at the track, and it was, and I was somebody that didn't really talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of shy about it all, being there the first time, and somebody's just like, "Hey, I saw you drive, and this could be better," and they helped me with my batteries, and um, I've seen that, over the years a lot with others.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It does make a difference, but it is about being at the right place and the right location. And I think that's where places like Hoosier, and even he brought up NorCal Hobbies, I mean, Eric, who was there, Vasutin, I mean, he's been around just as long as anybody, and he knows the game. He understands he's got to have a
Yeah.
boot camp, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, he understands the game. He knows where it comes from, and he has to generate new racers, which are in turn can be customers.
I got you. That makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense. All that goes together. Yeah. But yeah, man, just back to kind of what we was talking about. Like I said, I just wondered, like, with all the success like you have with, like, just getting back to like the tires and the bodies and the wings and stuff like that. Like with the older tires, like you had success with, like, with the subcultures and like with the hybrid tire. Is there any situation that y'all may pull that out, or what do you do with the older tires like that?
We kind of retire the molds and
Mm-hmm.
then we essentially take them. We discontinue those items. The
Mm-hmm.
molds are not destroyed; they are still around.
Mm-hmm.
But um, in this game, and along with anything, it's always about that new one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the hybrids don't work today or subcultures couldn't work today. We actually recently designed a subculture 2.0 because we thought, hey, it's still a cool looking and performing tire. Maybe we'll make some changes to it. So we did design a subculture 2.0. We know nobody's seen it
Mm-hmm.
yet, or we have, but we have done that. But the molds are, the parts are discontinued. The molds get kind of decommissioned, I guess, in a sense,
Yep.
where they're not operable anymore. um, and we don't throw them away or dispose of them, but
Mm-hmm.
there are some tax things that you can do where you can write off items that are no longer in use or discontinued. And there are some businessy stuff you can do with some of these older molds, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, you want that thing to work for you. Once you put the time in of designing it,
Right.
driving them, building the molds, and then the production, you want those to work for you to generate um, revenue so you can build other products. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I've ever done in RC. Is
Yeah.
all we do is if we have something successful, we turn that into more new items.
Okay.
It's never been, I've never thought of it like, oh, great, we have something that's doing well. Let's just um, use all this money that we can make for ourselves personally. It's always, we're putting everything back into more
So,
product.
so I got you. I got you.
So,
Keep developing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because that's the only way I've always thought that you're going to keep going is you have to constantly be, you constantly kind of reinventing yourself in a sense. Like I almost kind of think of it like if you're a famous band or you're a famous, you know, whatever kind of musician or something, you
Yeah.
have to have that new hit song, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can write that one good song or have that one hit. I'm not
Right.
saying a lot, but people can have one hit, right?
Yeah. One hit. What they call them? One hit wonders.
A
Yeah.
one hit wonder. But can you continue to have more hits? That's what determines ultimately your whole success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is can you continue to reinvent yourself? Can you say, look, we've had success with this, but can we do this and have more success? Can we change this? Can we, so you have to constantly be um, writing more hits.
Mm-hmm.
You have to write another hit.
Yeah.
And,
Stay in the
um,
lab. Mm-hmm.
and that is what we've always been trying to do now for 21 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just like going back to racing and just like life. Cause how I got into just RC and it was because I was always like the cars that was at Radio Shack, but I was like, man, these cars always break and it's rare to get parts. So I got into it older, man. Like I was like, what? When I was able to buy it myself, like 20s, you know what I'm saying? With a real RC car, great RC car, yeah, back in my 20s or whatever. But it's just like that. Just if you want to be good at it, you got to stay, you got to stay practicing. Just like I said, I got into the competition side by playing football, and after I got done playing college football, that's when I got more in depth into RC and still being able to feed that competition spirit that was still in me. You know what I'm saying? That competition drive, competitive drive that was in me, and got into RC, and it all relates together. As far as like, you want to get better on the track, you gotta continue to practice, continue to try new things, and you know what I'm saying, it might be something that you might not be used to, but if you don't get out there and try it and test it and prove it, like build new molds and stuff like that, how you gonna know to how you gonna know how you gonna keep yourself getting better and how to improve over the years and stuff like that. So I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
and you've went through it if you're playing competitive football and being from a competition standpoint and understanding that you have one game and then all of a sudden you can critique yourself or your team, right? And all of a
Hmm.
sudden you're thinking, how can we improve? How can we get better? You're never necessarily, it's hard to win all the time.
Yeah.
You have a That's why it's difficult to win. And so you can't win all the time, but what you try to do is increase your chances and try to make it so that it happens more time than not.
Yeah.
And that's the key because you can't do it all the time. There's too
Hmm.
many good in everything. You can't win all the time in football, basketball, RC cars, whatever it is. You can only increase your chances, but you can't make it 100%.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. Man, just let's just step back and go back back to the worlds and everything. And back to Renovon, back
Hmm.
over there in Spain. And what was some of the what made that track surface was the track surface so unique to adjust to, and um how did you approach that by bringing, sending your new set of tires that you developed to bring over there and stuff like that? I think you added with the Killick brothers to the J Concepts team, or was it?
No, Juan Carlos Canas.
Okay, Carlos. Okay, Canas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a new driver for
Hmm.
2024. And
Hmm.
well, we learned a lot when we were there in 2022. That's really
Right.
where it started.
Hmm.
And we learned how the track has sort of a process that it goes through for um, it continues to mature over the course of the week.
Hmm.
And we started to understand what was better for us, what tires worked well in 2022, and we tried to prepare better, much better in
Yeah.
2024 than we did in 2022.
Uh-huh.
We had a great moment or two moments in 2022 between the semifinals and the A final there. We actually had a very good performance in the main from Mayfield and Dakota back in 2022.
Two. Hmm. Right.
And so we tried to build on that and we came a little more prepared. We also, we got Juan on the team
Hmm.
who has probably the most, well, of our drivers, the most European experience. He has a lot of experience on that track specifically.
Uh-huh.
And um, he was prepared and ready. And we had several different tire options, not only for him, but the rest of our team that we experimented with during the week.
Hmm.
It starts off very, very abrasive and almost sandpaper like. Um, and it has a lot of grip,
Yeah.
but it has very abrasive grip, the way the car reacts to it. So the drivers have to start out the event driving a certain way. And
Hmm.
then the track it starts to polish the groove between the oil and the fuel coming out
Yeah.
of the cars. It
Hmm.
forms this groove that kind of has a polish to it.
Okay.
And it changes the way you can drive the car. Um, but the track still has very good grip. It's just in a different way. You get to a point where you can change compounds. We went to a clay compound, which was our silver,
Hmm.
which was part of our plan. We wanted to get to that tire compound. We felt that was an advantage for us.
Okay.
Um, Juan did run the fastest qualifier of the event in round 6. He was running the silvers. We thought that
Hmm.
that was a great way to end qualifying and going into the semifinals. Um, we stuck with what got him there,
Yeah.
and he ran the same tire the semifinals. He set the fastest time. We checked his wear on the tires after the semifinal, and it wore as we anticipated. We
Yeah.
we we knew we were going to be running slicks, um, at any point after 20 plus minutes we were going to be running slicks, and that was fine. We were planning on that.
Right.
What we didn't plan on is that there was a time between the semifinal and the main where it did get the sun came out. The
Mm.
weather was beautiful for the main day. It was probably in the 70s um, um,
Mm-hmm.
or the 80s, and the sun was behind the clouds for the most of the day,
Yeah.
and we're about ready to start the final, the 60-minute final, and the sun comes out, and the track got extremely warm,
Mm-hmm.
and we went through tires faster than we did in the 30-minute semifinal.
Wow.
We
I got you.
probably experienced we easily experienced maybe twice the amount of wear, deterioration of the tires
Mm-hmm.
in the final than we did in the semifinal.
I got you.
And it hurt a couple of our drivers pretty bad. They destroyed tires. Juan actually, he was leading. He was TQ, or he was on the pole position,
Uh-huh.
and he was leading, made a mistake. Ungaro got by. Ungaro had the lead, kind of pushed it out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Juan was chasing him. He was between 4 to 5 seconds behind him. He
Yeah.
was pushing extremely hard. He ran out of fuel. Juan did. He ran. He was about to come into the pits, ran out of fuel, and he did. He got his lap right, so he wasn't a lap down, but
Yeah.
he
Okay. Okay.
wasn't.
Yeah.
He was quite a ways back.
I
So
got
I think he dropped back to fourth or fifth at that point, but he got back into third and eventually second.
you.
And
Mm-hmm.
with about 2 minutes to go, his tire split on the inside
Got it.
part. There's a part of the tire that wears more than the rest of it because of
Okay.
um,
When it's down in the carcass of the tire.
the
What?
way it flexes. The tire flexes towards the inside,
Okay.
and it developed like a really high wear area there. And with 2 minutes to go, he split one right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he dropped from second to third. He wasn't going to win after the flame out or the running out of fuel, but he
Yeah.
was going to get second.
I got you.
He was pretty clearly in second. And then when
Yeah.
that happened, he went to third.
Third. Yeah. Yeah. I
Which,
remember seeing that.
but we
Mm-hmm.
were happy with it. We wanted to win. I thought it was going to be our moment there, but the the change of the track temperature there at the end, I would say really had a pretty big impact on on us and finishing stronger than we did. And to have it differently, we probably would have ran a harder tire
Yeah.
than we did, just for the purposes of durability. Um, we wanted to be on slicks. We were completely fine with that. That
Mm-hmm.
was We had the speed with slicks. That's what we wanted, but we didn't want that inner tire wear that he experienced there at the end. And we were 2 minutes, really 2 minutes away from completely utilizing the tire perfectly.
Okay.
you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
they
Yeah.
say the perfect race car expires when it just passes the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were 2 minutes from having a great race car, I
Great.
guess you could say.
Well, it happens. Yeah.
Look, you know what?
What was the name of the tire that you had developed just for the worlds or?
Was called.
Mhm.
We really had three.
Okay. What was the three?
So the three was we had one called the Dirt Web 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was the favorite of most of the American drivers. Then we had a tire called the Double Bar, which we consider are made more for European tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made another one, which was, in a sense, almost specifically for Dakota Fend,
Okay.
because I felt like he used the most amount of tire 2 years ago when we were there.
Yeah.
And I felt like, hey, let's get him something with even more support and more tread. And he did use it. And it really didn't work as well as we thought it was going to work for him.
Uh-huh.
But we did make a special tire, and it wasn't necessarily just for him, but it was in my mind and others that I thought it would be good for him. I thought
Yeah.
it would specifically really help his chances. But in the end, Juan ran the double bar tire from the moment he TQ'd in the last round
Okay.
to the semifinal and the A final. He ran the tire called the double bar, and
Yeah.
um, I mean it was great. Overall, it was a great tire. Like I said, had the weather been cool and the sun behind the clouds, I think we would have finished strong. You
Mm-hmm.
can't. I mean, he still would have, perhaps ran out of fuel, but um, he had a great Worlds overall, and
Yeah.
several of our drivers came on really strong during the main
Mm-hmm.
events. Uh, a lot of guys that were struggling really came together and had a very good event
Yeah.
right there at the end.
Okay. And I saw you had made a what the Lexan what razor wing. A lot of guys went with that Lexan razor ring. Just compare, from the just say the traditional wing like this. You went to the Lexan razor ring wing.
Yep.
Um, why was that the choice of the drivers over there?
I think the weight it was lower. It lowered your weight that was high on the vehicle. So
Mm-hmm.
going to the Lexan wing lowers the overall weight, and it removes it from a high point of the car. And on a track that was that high speed and
Mm-hmm.
that high grip, I think that's why they preferred it. Whereas when you go run where you need a little bit of grip or traction,
Yeah.
um, you go with the injection molded plastic razor wing, and I think that's the better choice.
Okay. 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 So yeah, Jason, what just from your perspective, seeing everything up close and personal, man, and was it what why did the American drivers struggle so much this year, even having the experience from 2 years ago? Why do you think we were so behind the eight ball this year?
I think a couple things. I think the one of the main things is there's always drivers and racers who are in the prime of their racing career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like any sport, right? Um, say you're talking about basketball or football or whatever, and
Yeah.
there's a prime of your career, and I think that probably 2 to 3 of the best drivers in the world who are in the prime of their racing career
Mm-hmm.
are European racers between Ungaro, Canas, and other drivers. They're in the prime of their racing career,
Yeah.
and um, so I think no matter what, had that race been on any condition, they're going to be very good.
Mm-hmm.
So right off the bat, Ungaro and Canas, they could be favorites on any condition. But I happen to believe that they're stronger on that track than they would be anyway because they have the most experience there.
Mm-hmm.
Big track, a ton of elevation going from left to right, uh, and then the condition of the surface being abrasive when you get there and very smooth, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much almost no ruts or bumps whatsoever. Um, and in general, that track layout that you get there is 75% probably the same all the time. Even though they might wipe the slate clean there and start,
Mm-hmm.
generally that layout is very, very similar all the time. And I believe that there was a big advantage to running on that track for the racers that have been there the most. So
Mm-hmm.
so those are the two biggest factors. Is it's possible that Ungaro and Canas are in the prime of their career racing on a track that they're the most familiar with. Um, so right off the bat, those two guys are going to be strong no matter where you're at.
Okay.
Going back to the racers from America, we're really relying on, if you're looking at it from an American racer perspective, um,
Mm-hmm.
we're relying heavily on Mayfield and Dakota, and we're relying on racers like, um, Ryan Lutz and Spencer Rivkin,
Mm-hmm.
uh, drivers that have already they've been to a lot of world championships, but in Mayfield the most at that point. Um, we're really relying on them for the best results from America, but they have the least amount of time and experience on that track of all the rest of the European racers.
Right.
So it puts them behind.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do, there wasn't an official warm up race there.
Right.
Like traditionally, there's a warm up race that happens, 6 months before the race or something like that. So there was no such thing. There was no such thing as a warm up this time because the race was supposed to be in Brazil.
True. It was.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the race was supposed to be
Yeah.
in Brazil. It had to move back to Spain. And I think that made it so there was really no warm up race. So it wasn't really possible to go back and run a race ahead of time to get a little bit more prepared and ready to go for that race in general. And I don't know if our guys would have gone anyway, because with the other schedules that they have to go to other events, commitments that they have,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a lot of weight and emphasis put on testing and preparing for that one event.
I got you.
And
So do you?
so
So would you?
all those things combined, I think the other guys
Uh-huh.
being the prime of their career, the track itself being really more towards their advantage, and then the fact that the American drivers didn't have a warm up race or didn't want to attend a warm up to better themselves come the real event. And I think that's the results that you saw
Mm-hmm.
was 100% based off of those factors.
Okay. But when you think that since it was there 2 years ago, it would have gave us a better advantage than it would have if it was just say over in Brazil or whatever, So
I
we,
I tend to think that a lot of drivers thought that since they ran the race in 2022 that it was going to pay off
mhm,
and it was going to be like a warm up for them. And I think that that was the idea was, hey, our warm up was 2022,
okay,
but it actually didn't go, in my opinion, as well as it did in 2022. I think that it went, I'm not going to say worse, but there wasn't any dramatic improvement from 2022 to 2024.
right,
And I
right,
think it has a lot to do with they needed to do it again. There needed to be another event before that for them to really concentrate on being their best at that
mhm,
particular event. If you're not, and we talked about this during the race with Max Mort and stuff, and
okay, yeah,
I think that if it would have, I think in order for them to be more competitive, they would have had to have another probably 5 to 7 days of experience there
Mm.
and then start the race all over again. And I think that it would have been better.
Yeah,
I don't think it would have been a win. I think the results at the top would have been the same, but I think that it would have been better.
better. Mm.
But the question is how much effort do you put into getting fifth place, right?
Yeah.
If you could get to fifth place, do you put in $30,000 worth of, because obviously it costs something each
Mm.
time you travel. You got to travel over there, travel back, travel over there, travel back. You got product expenses. How much money do you put into potentially um, getting a top five? How much money do you put into getting a top three? What is it worth to your companies that you represent versus just racing races that we have here and putting on um, a great show or putting on a great performance at, say, a PMB or putting on a great performance somewhere else.
Yeah.
You might be able to have a better impact doing that than spending a lot of money going back and forth to Spain to practice. Now, granted, it all feels good when it comes together. Say you put all that effort in and you ended up
Mm.
winning, Oh, sure, it feels great. But no matter how much effort people were going to put in, was anybody going to beat Ungaro anyway? We don't know.
No, no.
I
Yeah.
say no. I say no. I say no matter how much work and effort you put it in, I think you weren't going to beat Ungaro on that day on that track. And I think that's part of the sad reality of the way some of these things go down. But so sometimes you get what you put into it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what they say. You get out of whatever you put into it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Whatever situation. And I just think that um if us American guys go over there and ran more, like they come over here, because this is basically pretty much it's the same company. Like I don't know, associated from Italy, Europe, associated Europe, like Mugen Europe. They send their guys here to race like DNC and um Silver State. So why don't we really go over there and race?
Yeah.
So
Well, the biggest reason is we have our racers have a big schedule of races they're already attending. And I think that we also have drivers like Dakota, Spencer, and before
mhm,
Mayfield, when he raced 10 scale, um, they're racing multiple genres of RC. So it's easy for it. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's easier for um, some European racers to come and run our events because they have more openings in the schedule because they're also not trying to race 10 scale competitively, right?
mhm,
You take like a Dakota, half of his schedule during the year is racing 10 scale races.
mhm,
And so he might be going to 20, 23 events per year, half of which are 10 scale, half of which are 8 scale. It's hard to add in two more or three more international trips when he feels already like he's behind the eight ball just trying to be on top of 10 scale and 8 scale races in the US. So, what would have to happen to do that? You would have to concentrate on one segment. Then you could do that. If you were a Dakota, if you were a Spencer Rivkin,
mhm,
even Mayfield now, if you wanted to completely um, pull out of 10 scale racing, I think it would open you up for two or three events to go to Europe
yeah,
and to race and get up to speed on different conditions. But these drivers have shown over the years that they can be competitive in multiple um, genres or multiple classes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're expected to do. Associated expects Spencer to be able to be competitive in 8 scale, 10 scale on carpet, and 10 scale on dirt. And really, if you are concentrating on 3 different things and you're trying to run with the best in the world in 3 different categories, um, it's tough to have the time to swing over to Europe and run 2 or 3 more big events there. So um, it's time, and what's the biggest priority?
Yeah, I just think, yeah, I think that's the gist of, I think, what's the biggest priority. Because like I say, Spencer just went over to Australia, and did his 10 scale race just last week. And I don't know, man. I just think, yeah, I think they ought
Well,
to
my
prioritize it more often. So because I mean, it seems to me, it's just me thinking about it, is like, just to learn to run over there on your European style tracks, it'll be beneficial, because not you just getting the running in and the driving, you're also going to learn like the setup to make the driving easier too. Once you're going over there, you're learning the setup, European setup, not just you having, the US setup, you'll have a European type setup too. And that's just gonna make you overall better driver, and be able to go wherever, and still be, what I'm saying, on top. So
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah, I think if you're able to pull um, 10 scale out of your racing arsenal, I think a racer would have more time to do that type of thing.
mhm,
But I think other than that, it's difficult um, to make the commitment, because, like, you know, I've been talking to Spencer about what his racing priorities are recently, and one of the reasons he decided, and talking to talking to me, talking to Brent from
mhm,
Associated, that I said, I said, for you, why not just prioritize um, going to Australia, getting some runs in now, because if you don't put it on the schedule and you don't want to do it,
mhm,
then, or if you don't put it on the schedule, then it might not happen. And then if you go there in 2025 for the Worlds and you haven't done it, then, you know, you might feel like you let yourself down, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I've encouraged him to get started early on that, because he is a world champion in that category twice.
mhm, yeah,
I said, go back there, try to get that title back. And even if you don't succeed in getting the title back, if you can get on the podium, it's a great accomplishment.
right,
But it's not going to come easy. You're not going to be able to do it never being there.
mhm,
The days of just kind of showing up out of nowhere and not being there before and winning is few and far between. There's not going to be many of those drivers or racers out there. So if you want to get that top end result, you got to put in that top end effort.
yeah, man. Like Marcus Butler just said, he says, why not substitute a couple of US races to run a couple of overseas races, or just send drivers that aren't running 10 scale. So um that's
Yeah, a
that's
couple
that's a
of
good
things.
idea. Hmm.
Well, a couple things. Yeah. You could potentially, I think a lot of time here is spent, just off the top of my head, you got Nitro Challenge, Silver State.
Yeah.
Um, then you have PMB, Wicked Weekend, AMS, and SIC. That's 6 races there. Then you
Hmm.
got races like the Mugen Challenge, the Roar Nationals for Nitro and e-buggy. That's 9 races there. And then you have the other things that you run in. You may have, usually every driver has 1 or 2 local events they do throughout the year. So let's just call that's 11.
Yeah.
for a guy like um, Mayfield. So right there, he has 11 races um, that he's contracted to go to from his sponsors. That those are the races that are on their schedule, on their calendar. There's at least 11 of them, and then you have everything else. There's other items in between. So I think what you'd have to do,
Mm-hmm.
you have to first decide of those events, which ones, what European race could you go to? You can't actually run in the Euros because you're not
Not
European,
European, right?
so
Mm-hmm.
you can't run in that one. Um, they do have Montpellier, which is in France. There's the Buggy Land that they just had in
Yeah, Buggerland they just had. Yeah.
the
Last
Buggy
week.
Land,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the Reds GP that they just had over the weekend. So that those are three of the races you could potentially go to in Europe. But you also have to. It also has to not be any conflicts, right?
Yeah, that's true. Because they do
So,
don't they have like an international buggy challenge or something like that? INS or something
yeah,
like that. Mm-hmm.
that didn't happen this year because it got rained out, but that would be
Mm-hmm.
another one you could do. So
Mm-hmm.
there, I think there's at least four international races that you could probably participate in.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to pick one or two, and then you would have to just see what conflicts, what and what doesn't conflict,
Mm-hmm.
what you're already supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
and then commit to it.
Yeah. Shoot, that's what's up, man. Like I said,
It,
I just
it, it is possible.
yeah.
It's possible to do it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, I just what I'm saying, I just want the fellas, man. Just when I say the fellas, I mean US guys to go and put their best foot forward too. You know what I'm saying? And really show their
I
true talents. You know what I'm saying? And then like I said, you put in the hard work trying to make all the equipment right for you so you be comfortable. And so you just can just concentrate on just driving, you know? So
Yeah, I definitely agree. And
so let me ask you this. So how did you do it when you went to the worlds? When you was running, 10 scale, when you was at the 10 scale worlds, how did y'all do that when it was out of off American soil? How did y'all adapt to going over to Europe and racing and practicing and stuff before time?
you know what's really strange is um, the first Worlds I went to was in Japan at Yatabe Arena, and so that was the first one. And then in '99 we went to Finland. That was probably um, the other. It was a European event. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there was a Worlds in South Africa for 10 scale. There was I'm trying to think. I mean, it's been in Japan like two or three times. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of there's been that's what's really strange is in 10 scale there's been several worlds in Japan, but never actually an 8 scale worlds in Japan, which is kind of interesting. Um, so well, what we did is we went to the warm up. That's what we did. We
Pretty
went
much.
to we went to the warm up race,
Yeah.
and the one in particular I remember going to that others didn't actually was I went to the world's warm up in '99 in Finland,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked on some tire designs after that race. Um, and then we went back. I don't remember how much longer it was after that we went back. Maybe it was 6 or 7 months, but and I mean, it was an advantage for me that I went to the warm up for sure. I knew what to expect coming back
Yeah.
the next time. I understood the track, I understood the conditions, I knew what tires I needed to have, and it was a big advantage for me to have been there before. And I never considered as a racer, I never thought that I would be competitive at all at any of these worlds without ever attending a warm up. I was the warm up was your opportunity to get a look into
Mm-hmm.
what it was like and adjust and then come back better prepared the next time. And
Yeah.
if you don't do those type, in these days, in a few of the situations I was in, nobody had been to those tracks before,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like there was somebody that had a lot more experience. What we're dealing with this track in Spain is it's been there a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's 75% the same layout all the time,
Yeah.
and then the surface itself is the other part to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're fighting against in that situation is not only did you not go and have a warm up or prepare for the worlds itself, but others have been able to run there many times.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that that's the reason why Angaro or Canas is so good at that track.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they're in the peak of their career. They might win no matter where this race is.
Okay.
So, but other than that, you add on top of that
Mm-hmm.
that they're also the most familiar with the track. So that really shifts the advantage in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
In my situation, there had been many times where, even when we went to Japan in 1995,
Yeah.
it was Masami's home track. We all thought Masami was going to win both classes. Like we had no like But what happened when we went there in 95 is the race was in the summer. It
Mm-hmm.
was really hot. The track conditions changed, and Masami had never really seen a track condition like we got during the Worlds. A lot of his tracks and a lot of his track time there was during the winter and when it was cold, and he knew what tires to use and he knew how to work that to his advantage. But
Yeah.
when we went there and we ran the Worlds in the summer, the track completely changed. It dried out. The event was twice as long as their normal events,
Okay.
and um, it threw him. I mean, I think he still got second or third in each class,
Mm-hmm.
but that allowed Matt Francis to win two wheel. That allowed Mark Pavidis to win four wheel because at that time, because the track was a lot different than what Masami had experienced before there, and
Okay.
the tire game changed.
Mm-hmm.
And to Matt Francis and Mark Pavidis, they adjusted quickly to that situation, and it didn't
Yeah.
seem strange to them. So it actually, in a sense, in that situation, it actually probably hurt Masami that he had experience there because he was expecting one thing and got another.
Mm-hmm.
And guys like Matt and Mark were able to react. And even me racing there, I was able to just react to whatever your instinct was at the moment. It's like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
just going to try this because, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. So, anyway, that was a little different experience. And this situation in Spain is with that track is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, like I said, I don't think that no matter how much everybody practiced, I don't know how much the results would have been different. Um, I do think one of the standout racers that I'm not going to say got forgotten there, but everybody in this day and age, especially, they kind of rally around the winner, and the winner gets either an amazing amount of respect or everyone fixates on who the winner is. But Elliott Boots
Yeah.
was really good at that race.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe the best I've ever seen him. And he's had some amazing performances over the
Like,
years. But
right. Yeah.
he got second, and he ran a hell of a main there.
Yeah.
And he obviously won Nitro Challenge this year, also having a great race. But I really thought he was the standout to me. I expected Ongaro to be great. I knew Canas was going to be as fast as Ongaro and very capable. But to me, the standout in that main was really Elliott Boots.
Boots. Yeah. Like I said, I had interview with Boots. I guess probably was maybe a couple of, I guess about 3 weeks before they went over there and ran, and he was just saying that he just, because I asked him, I was like, man, what have like rejuvenated your driving style to, because at one time it seemed like he was just complacent with it, you know what I'm saying, but now it's back with a sense of urgency, more aggressive, just like he wants it more, you know what I'm saying. So he just said he just really found a good, he was telling me that he just really found a solid good setup on that Ace Works car, and it's been working for him, and plus his confidence really has, you know what I'm saying, he has more confidence than since found the new setup and everything, and everything just been clicking, you know what I'm saying. So he just said it's just been he just been on point ever since he found that new setup and been more comfortable with the car than in the past. So
I
yeah.
I think another thing that's underrated in a sense is, I mean, I've known him for a long time. He actually used to race for us
Mm-hmm.
um, when he was um, not just getting in, but he was already a fantastic racer. But we ran the Worlds in 2010 in Thailand,
Yeah.
and he and Lee Martin pitted in our J Concepts container. They were both J Concepts racers, um,
Was that the one
and
that Cody King won?
yes,
Okay.
and Elliot was a fast racer then, but I think the difference between being younger and older for some of these guys is when you're younger, um, I think it's a little more exciting and you're a little bit and you're emotional about the results, and you tend to react differently to good times and bad times, right?
Mm-hmm.
In on the track. And I think what these guys have been able to do, like Elliott Boots, like Ryan Mayfield, is they have been able to um, been able to understand better than a lot of racers at an older age that it's what they do
Mm-hmm.
for a job
Yeah.
and what their career is, and they're able to break it down a little bit better, I think, in their head, and actually have a better strategy for being a better driver than just relying on the talent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think when you're really, really young, um, or when racers are young, I think you just go off of talent and emotion.
Yeah.
And sometimes the mechanical side of it lets you down because you're not as experienced there, but you have so much raw ability that you're trying to do it with speed and passion. Well, when these guys get a little bit older, you're having to do it with a little, you're able to do it in different ways. And I think that's what guys like Elliott and Mayfield have figured out is how to be more mature while breaking down how to get better in a race,
Mm-hmm.
and then be better in a long race.
I got
And I
you.
think that's a situation where Elliott has thrived the last
Yeah.
couple of years, and it's kind
Yeah.
of, I wouldn't say resurrected his career because he's
Mm-hmm.
not like he's ever went to the D main or something like that,
Yeah.
but there's a big difference between being um, eighth and second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you know you got to get from, if you're going to be a professional, you got to go from eighth to second. You got to be on
Right.
the podium. That's where
Right.
you're expected to be,
Yeah.
and if these guys can get themselves there, that prolongs your career.
Mm-hmm. So since yourself, it has been close to that world's winning racer, has raced in the world yourself, um, and you seen both of these drivers up close and personal. Just break down the difference between the driving styles of Canas and Ongaro.
What I see with the difference between them is I think I think that Davide is a little smoother of a driver, and he is um, driving more of the the ideal racing line,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a knack for driving the car on the racing line using minimal steering inputs, but generating good corner speed through driving the correct racing line.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on that style track. When it's smooth
Yeah.
and high bite, that's kind of where I'm referring to. Um, Juan, in my opinion, doesn't drive 100% like that.
Mm-hmm.
He drives a little more where he attacks the corners with the brakes and drives a little bit more of an aggressive point to point style where
Mm-hmm.
he wants to muscle the car a little more. He wants to make the car work a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's not that you just, to me, you don't just set out in your mind, that's how I'm going to do it. I think it feels comfortable and it feels right to drivers to do certain things. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that feels right to him
Mm-hmm.
to hustle the car a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
make the car do things that you think are going to generate better lap times. You're
I got you.
hustling the car, you're throwing it in, you're making steering corrections and adjustments on the fly,
Mm-hmm.
you're um, making these moves in the air to set up for the turns differently and doing different whips and different things. Whereas I think Ungaro is he's trying to carry the most amount of corner speed running the ideal racing line. And what that does is when you're driving the car, the actual steering,
Mm-hmm.
the the least or the less that you can turn your car, the front tires, and still carry corner speed, it's more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
The more you have to turn and scrub speed, and you have to um, make those kind of movements, the more inefficient your racing line and the car and your speed is.
Yeah.
You generate more tire wear, you generate more scrub, you're harder on the brakes, you're harder on the whole car by driving that way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think Ungaro is using a style more similar to what an on-road racer would use to navigate an on-road track, but he's doing it with jumps.
Yeah.
Whereas the other style looks to the spectator, I think, more fun, more exciting. There's a little more action going on with the car,
Mm-hmm.
but you're working that car harder to try to go just as fast.
I got you.
Now, we're talking about a smooth track, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not to have the bumps. Like, you go to Silver State or Dirt Nitro Challenge, the track's bumpy, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's a different thing completely. But
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about the smooth track, high traction, I think those are the differences.
Okay. 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 One more. We got two more. Just break down the driving style between Finn and Mayfield.
Well, I think when Mayfield was younger, he drove more like Dakota. As they both get older, they're kind of getting closer to being more similar
Mm-hmm.
again. Um, and obviously, I say older. One's probably 28 and the other's 38. Right? They're not old guys, but
Mm-hmm.
um, but when but when you're but Ungaro won the world. He's 23 years old. Canas got third. He's 21 years old. These
Right.
guys they're young. But to me, when Ryan was younger, he was very aggressive. He tried to generate fast laps by working the car hard. That's what we're talking about with Juan a little bit. You're working the car a little harder. You're trying to make the car generate speed and lap times by making it do things that only top level talent can really kind of do with the car.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what Dakota has done. He, over the years, he works the car pretty hard, and he uses his talent to bail out of mistakes. If you hit a pipe, he can correct it. He can get it back down on four wheels. If he senses something's going wrong in the air, he makes a correction. He gets out of it. They save as many mistakes or more than any other racer there is because they have this talent to save the car when they're in trouble. So Mayfield and Dakota were both were and are masters of that, saving the car when they get in trouble. And so because they would drive to the extent that the vehicle could really produce, they over jump things, they put a lot of pressure on landings, they attack 180 type turns harder, if not harder than anybody. But what they've learned, and we're talking about this with Elliott, is they have learned through age, experience, and I think running long main events that they don't have to do that all the time. What they've learned is, sure, if I'm behind, if I'm in a qualifier where I'm behind, or I'm just behind in a long main event, sure, I can take chances. I can drive to the more of the limits of the vehicle, where what they've learned is there's a technique, and they've learned to master the technique of being fast, consistent, driving more where the car likes to drive on the track and not where they want to drive. Where I think a lot of racers just say, well, this is where I'm going to drive the car. This is the line I'm going to take. They start to adjust their line because they realize right away the car doesn't like when I go through here like this. There's things you can and can't do with these cars. And they realize when they're on these tracks, they drive through there, they drive through sections, and they say, the car doesn't like going through here. I'm going to attack this differently. I'm going to take this line over here, turn over here because it's more consistent. And so over time, they've learned these things, and they have to just stay close. They know the race is long. They know that they have the ability to turn it up if they need to, but multiple mistakes in a row takes you out of an event. They can afford to try things that are tenths of a second slower in order to gain consistency in the long run because the race is long. So I think over the years, they went from being a little bit daring and risky with their driving, but fast, to being more controlled, more consistent, and better overall drivers. To me, they look like now. To me, when Ryan was leading worlds and being fastest and TQing things, he was doing it with raw talent. And he was doing it with an aggression. Now when he wins, to me, I see him doing it with more intelligence and more thought and just a better overall feel for the game than just overall speed. And I think to me that's impressive. And I see Dakota trying to do those same things. He's still in a little different position age-wise and everything else in his racing, but I think he starts off trying to be that Dakota that's going to fly around, bump off pipes and make these adjustments and get out of issues, but I think overall what he's learning is um, that same thing that Mayfield's learned is stay in the game. If you have to sacrifice a couple tenths to learn the track better, to find out where the car wants to go, stay in the game and
Mm-hmm.
just be in contention and be there so that if something good happens, you can be the one that, um, you know, can take advantage of it.
I got you.
If you
Okay.
take yourself out of it in the first 10 minutes, you have no
Right.
chance. And
Okay.
so I see these guys morphing into a little bit of different racers over the years. They're using their intelligence along with the speed and
Mm-hmm.
the program of the car. They're learning more about the entire package to add to that talent. And that's why they are continuing to win um, after doing it for 20 years.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's what's up. That's what's up, man. Like I said, I just want to give you something a little different to think about than the
That's
normal
what's up.
question. Yeah, man. One more thing, then I'm gonna get you up out of here, man. We've been on here for a minute, so but do you think the retirement of Ty Tesman and Tebow has played a part, has hurt the industry, or um I know it's a void, but what you think about it? I mean, I know people have to do what they have to do, but what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's hurt the business. I don't think it's hurt the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for Ty Tessman, I think he made the best decision. Um, I think that could he continue to raced at the similar level he was racing at for sure, but had he already experienced the best results that he ever would be able to achieve, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what he saw was the handwriting on the wall was that he was no longer going to be able to get um, enough support to essentially give the whole family a job, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So before he had so much support, not only was he supporting himself, his dad had a job through X-ray, and the mom, um, I think that she really had a job taking care of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously they still have all their um,
Mm-hmm.
individual um, things that they had to take care of in life, in
Right.
family, whatever. But what I saw was
It was a
she did the intangibles.
Yeah, it was a machine over there. Yeah,
You
I
know,
got you.
she
Mm-hmm.
did the intangibles. The dad was kind of the push. He was like, "Let's do this right. Let's do it this way. Let's practice. Let's test. Let's." He was the push,
Mm-hmm.
and Ty was the good composed racer. He was
Mm-hmm.
uh, and one of the best. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that for him to get that level of support from another manufacturer wasn't out there.
Yeah.
There wasn't another X-ray willing to essentially support your entire family so that you could race and turn in these top level results. And I think he felt like, while I'm still young, why don't I just retire and take on a different career while I'm at this age? Because sure, he could put it off. He could
Mm-hmm.
put off the inevitable to maybe 40 years old, but did he want to start over in life or in work at 40 years old
True. Mm-hmm. I
when
see
he
what you're
could
saying.
when he
Mm-hmm.
could have done it at 30 years old? Because it's not like you're in the NBA or the NFL where you retire and you have millions of dollars. You as a professional in RC, there is only a few what I consider career jobs in RC. It's on, you could probably count them on two hands,
And
is
mm-hmm.
there's only that many people that can do it as a real career. And he was one of them. But I think he felt that was going away, and why not just start now
Yeah.
on something else. And I think he's going to make that's the right decision. He had a great RC career, but starting the life, a different life, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
in a different job, I think is the right move. For Jared, I've known Jared longer than Ty, a little bit closer with Jared than Ty personally, but
Mm-hmm.
I think with Jared, um, I think what the reason he's not racing, I believe, is some of the same reasons of Ty, where you weren't getting quite the support you did at one time. That wasn't as available to
Mm-hmm.
him. Sure, he could have picked up several different smaller deals and still continue to be a pro racer, but I think what he was saying, all right, let me pick up and try to get my career and my get something going before it's too late,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of a good move. But what I saw out of Jared is I didn't see the same level of not dedication isn't the right word. I think it's just mentally, I think he was burned out
Yeah.
of racing because you have to be in order to keep being able to perform in something at a high level. It takes a certain mentality. You have to be a little bit. Um, I don't really know what the right word isn't like insane, but you have to be a little mentally over focused and have this burning desire to prove yourself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what ends up happening for these guys is you become targets. Anybody that's good at something, you get to a point where you just turn into being a target.
Yeah.
So you can go to any race and you have to perform at a high level. Otherwise, somebody says, "Hey, I beat Jared Tebow," and he's like, and then in a way, it's kind of you're kind of offended because somebody's trying to. They're not taking it from you, but they're almost saying, "Well, I'm as good as Jared Tebow because I beat him in one qualifier at some club race," and you're like, "Well." Look, I just showed up. I just want to drive my cars today. I want to have fun. And
Yeah. You're
and
right.
and
You're right.
you're trying to take me down in a qualifier at a club race, and it's mentally exhausting
Yeah.
because you don't get the opportunity to enjoy it, to race, because somebody's always using you as a target.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jared was mentally exhausted
Mm-hmm.
from RC because of that expectation always being there. And he is a racer, like everything. Like I've seen him on bicycles,
Right.
motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
At the Worlds in 2011, they allowed these guys to get in this race car after the race, like a real, like I don't remember what they're called. It's on. There's videos of it on YouTube. He was amazing. He's an amazing racer. You put him in anything with four wheels or two wheels, he's great with it.
Mm-hmm.
He has a knack for being a racer, a competitive, any kind of racer. But I think it was just mentally exhausted. I think he was just mentally exhausted with it. And I think that's why he really retired, was because he was like, I'm just mentally kind of over this right now.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
And he might as well start on another like another mission in a way. So I think
Yeah.
that's where he's at. Is I think he was just kind of mentally exhausted from the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
trying to perform at that level for so long. He did it when he was a young kid too. He was really good when he was 12, 13 years old,
Yeah.
which is very rare. And he really won the majority of the time he raced. And
Mm-hmm.
when that is your only goal, and that's you've always accomplished being, I know from my racing the what my um, expectation was of myself as a racer. I can't imagine what Jared's expectations of himself was as a racer because he was far better than anything I was able to do. And my expectation was high, excellent. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like when I was out there, every time if I wasn't winning locally or winning regionally, like I'm like letting myself down. And I think
Mm-hmm.
for a guy even more talented like a Jared, world champion, it's mentally exhausting.
Yeah, I got you. I got you, bro. I got you. But yeah, man. Last thing for my RC family, for everybody that's listening, man. What give them the top three tires that they should have in a bag: 10 scale and 8 scale.
So these days, if you're racing 10 scale indoors, it's usually silver smoothie twos.
Mm-hmm.
That's the go-to tire. If you're racing outdoors, it's usually double D's or sprinters. Those are usually the hot tires outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're going to go 8 scale racing, or I'm sorry, on carpet, if you want to be on carpet, you're running fuzz bites in
Yeah.
the rear or pin swags or fuzz bites in the front. Those are the go-to tires on carpet. If you're racing 8 scale, you got to have reflexes. That's like the one you got to have. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, I'd say relapse, reflex,
Mm-hmm.
relapse, and those are probably the two ones that we use most often.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we have the dirt bites and the falcons. If I had to pick just three, I'd probably go reflex, relapse, and the dirt bites. Those three. Yeah, some people say the Cosmos too, but I feel like I would be on one of those other three tires almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Green or blue compound in the United States. If you're racing in Europe, they race a lot of clay compound
Yeah.
tracks, bar tires. We talked about those earlier. The new ones, the double bars, dirt web twos, ellipse,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of tires. That's kind of the those conditions. So that's it.
I got you. That's it, brother. Hey, man, I think we did it. I think we did a good job, man. And you held it down. You held it down in my
Yeah.
technical difficulties, and hey,
Let me
but it's
know if
been
you need me to host this lounge any other time.
hey, I got you. You know,
We can have you on as a guest.
hey man, y'all just hit me up. I'll come in and you know,
Rehabs.
yes sir.
Yeah,
I'll come in and talk. Yeah, man.
Parks Butler, he mentioned rehabs, which is kind of another, it's just a small,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a derivative of the rehab and the relapse or
Yeah,
same style tire in a sense. But yeah, those two.
that's what's up. That's what's up, bro. And
That's
hey
what's
man,
up.
and stay on God, man. Tell them to come on out and race some, man. You know what I'm
We will. I'm on them.
saying? Brother, I appreciate you, man. And hey, it's been a treat, man. I enjoyed. I hope we can do something again. You know,
Let's do it again. Just let me know. Give us a little advance, and I'll try to. We'll do one of these. We'll jump on. We'll do it.
that's what's up. That's what's up, bro. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate it. Well, all right, RC family, that's it. Hey, y'all ain't got to get off the internet, but you know what? You got to get off EKJ line. So we'll catch y'all later. All right, later.